Designs. This is part 2 of the Hanna Karlzon Daydreams, and I'm working on the young lady with the hair, flowers in her hair, with the long plait, and I'm working in my little book, my 21st century colour book, travel book, which has the full 72 Derwent Inktense pencils scratched on colour squares, giving me a lot of control. So I get 10 shades or tones out of every square. And that allows me that even that's the deep rose colour here, it's allowing me to have this beautiful soft pink for my little roses. So I'll show how I do one, and then I'll zoom in and you can see. So at the moment I've got this little tiny kind of a bald spot. So in the middle here, that's going to be the palest, and then on the edge here it's going to be darker. Now I remember doing a blip actually, and I put that colour over the top. So I do have a different, slightly different tone there. So I need to stay on this section here to keep within the true, but this the true deep rose colour, which is 710. But I don't have to do that. I can mix every colour on here in different combinations to make 20 shades of pinks with different combinations, and it would still be fine. It would just give me lots and lots more colour. So that was deep rose 710. So how I'm doing that is I'm keeping my brush fairly dry, and I'm activating a little bit of colour. I'm doing each petal, so I'm starting in, maybe I can do a little bit more colour, starting in the centre and then manipulating that. Now this is how I do watercolouring, and I normally do it with a rigger because you've got more control, but it works with a colour brush with a bit of practice. So in the centre, and if you had Derwent watercolour pencils, you wouldn't have to work quite as quickly. You could let it dry, but because these are Inktense pencils, you can't really let them dry. And you need to work once and then move away onto the next bit, because it's still paper and you don't want to be constantly rubbing the pencil. Sorry, the paper. And so we've got that natural highlight, and that's another flower done. And they're very, very pale, considering this is Inktense deep rose colour. And there's one behind there, so I'll zoom in and then we can see what I'm doing. But it's a bit more difficult with a water brush. But I'm not particularly very well today, and messing about with riggers and long paintbrushes is not going to be an option. This is very easy. You can do this in hospital, you can do it on a plane, you can do it anywhere. You've got very little control. The control is in the amount of colour you're activating and the amount of water you're using. But there's no real mixing and kind of messing about. It's all done for you, especially with the water brush. And I kind of like that idea, and I like taking things to a different level. Now I've got this. I don't have any dark, but that's pale, so I'm going to have to wait until I do this one, which I hope I'm on camera, that I can come back and do this one. So that meant it's the same, but if I'd have touched it, it would have been as dark as here, and we didn't want that. So I did this one. So again, you don't always have to clean your brush like you do with a rigger. If there's a bit too much and you want your highlight, go to the next one. Then very quickly manipulate that. And you've not gone too dark, because I want to keep this just a hint of colour. But it looks like you've worked really hard because you've got this beautiful watercolour effect, and it's very quick and very easy. And you don't have to go back in with a pencil, it's just going to look beautiful as it is. And this one I was using a different coloured, I might as well do all of them, there's 2 more to do. And then that becomes a rose, so it's different, unless it's the same rose as that one. No, it's different. I've done that one a different colour, but never mind, that's a mistake, but never mind. It isn't a pink rose, that one. So again, manipulate that round. And I have tissue. I don't have a baby wipe this time. I have a tissue because I need it to be dry. If my brush was too wet and it touched the paper palette, I would get too much colour, and I don't want too much colour this time. Sometimes I do, but this particular time I want it to go to barely nothing at the end, and that's what gives the highlights. And there was still some left on, so I managed to get that little flower petal as well. And you don't waste any colour. There's no colour going into the water pot. My water pots I try to keep as pale as possible. That's too strong, so I'm going to go in that one, and then really quickly reactivate that one and go in that one. Now these are really very pale colours, but I kind of like that. But it's a really easy way to work, and it makes you feel so much better. So I was just wondering who's outside and what they were doing. Right, so now I have to find a leaf. That was a different coloured leaf, so I made a boo-boo, but it's a different leaf, so I don't know how that happened. But I think I'm going to go for the... Oh, I found a petal. Why is that a petal there? Oh, is it curled round? There's a petal, it's curled round, so again that's got to be a bit darker. I found a petal. So we've got 2 different types of leaf, which is going to confuse everything, but never mind. We have this type of leaf here, and then we have there's the other type, which is that one. So we've got the greens, we can remember what we did. I think I used leaf green and light and olive. So the darker was the middle, so we'll get all these done first. And if you keep going, you're going to get a light and a dark. So again, it's personal preference, what you want. The idea is to make sure you're on a leaf and not a gap. So I'm just going to keep going and finding these leaves, and we have a ladybug there, so I think we'll do her next. And my ladybugs are, I've got a poppy red or hot red. I think poppy red. And I think she's probably going to end up being the same colour. So she's done now. Oh, thank you, Claudia. The petal under the butterfly wing. Is it a petal or is it a leaf? Which butterfly wing are we on? Oh, that one. Thank you. Oh, bye, Melody. Thanks for stopping by. Kenny says I can't say how many gaps I've painted. Oh, thank you, Kenny. Thank you. Yeah, I've missed that one, so we need to go back to our deep rose. But I'm only going in the very pale bit I've already done. It's very pale, is that? Maybe a bit darker because it is under the butterfly, so it could do that. Thank you. So now we've got a complete flower. Yeah, sometimes it's not good to show how many times you make mistakes. But it's your colour book and you can normally cover them up. So I like this olive 4, 5, 11, I think it is. And if I do this one first, and dry that off and just do that again, and then underneath we can get a highlight maybe going. Sorry, I just had a coughing fit. That wasn't good. So I think I might get away with maybe a little bit darker underneath. And then if I go over here, that should be a natural highlight, and I've not done anything except for gone from that one to that one. It's just the nature of the flow of water, and it's the nature of, if it was a rigger, it would do the same. So underneath it's going to be that little bit darker, and then on top it's paler. And I love the fact that you get some really nice effects and you've not actually done very much to get them. So again, I like that effect. Now I can afford for these to be that little bit darker because they're actually technically under something, but I actually quite like that colour scheme. It's very pale, so I'm not sure if we're going to make her a brunette or a blonde, but I probably end up finishing that first before I do that. So thanks, guys. So thank you very much for stopping by. Hope everybody's okay. Just going to pick these flowers off. And I say, you know, if you're somewhere where getting out even a water pot's going to be a pest, this is a real nice way to work, and it means you can still keep doing this. Sometimes I'm not in a mood to pick up a book and read. I want to colour, and this allows me to do that. So I'm going to do that one behind, and I'm going to do that side in front. Apologise about the monster, so that's going to be behind there, and then just a very hint of that. And we must have about 6 different greens here at least, and yet it's the same green, so I like that effect as well. So I'm just going to go back up here very slowly and catch up with these greens if I can remember what I used. Hooker's green and felt green, I think. So I think I used the Hooker's green in the middle. And excuse me, so we've got the Hooker's green and just catching up, because of course it's the same green, but now it's the green is going to actually be next to a different flower, and luckily it works. A lot of the time it doesn't, but I think because you've got to look at Mother Nature always look at a beautiful stuffed garden full of flowers, and then look at the greens next to them, and they're all different. So, but all the greens match all the colours that they're next to. So a pink flower will have a different green to an orange flower, and I find that so clever that Mother Nature. It's like especially the tea roses. All the roses have different coloured leaves to go with them, and I think that is just so wonderful, because some greens do not go with some colours. So that's quite a nice little area, is that? So if you're doing a watercolour, if you want to do a watercolour and you're not colouring in, because I've got these colours together, I can look and I can see, well, actually I like these greens and pinks rather than these greens and pinks. So you learn your colour schemes as well. And apologies for the monster, he's having a moment. He's just having his moment. Apologies. Everybody's outside having fun and he's not. And Suzanne's not here to tell him off. So he's having a play on his own. So just move these down, and it's a case of just picking them off. Now sometimes you can get 2. Oops, wrong green. I went for the Hooker's green there, but that's fine. There isn't much in it. If it was the wrong colour, I would have to waste that on the tissue and start again, because it would, or just use it in between the leaf. You wouldn't normally get away with that. but that's the only time I waste colour. So again, I really like the fact that every scrap of colour that is coming off my paper palette is going onto my colour page, because I am that tight Yorkshire lass. And they're not cheap, these. They're very good quality, but they are not cheap. So you don't want to be kicking them about. You want to be getting as much colour out of them as you can. And I've got green on the end of here, and I've run out of green, so I'm just going to slide over there and do that one. And again, that gave me a highlight, so I got 4 leaves out of that, whereas normally you would have touched that and wasted it. So if you actually look, that's the wrong colour. But they confused me because they changed the leaf. But they didn't change the petals, because that leaf goes with that petal. But that petal, I don't think, would look like that one, because it looks like that one. So I've made a boo-boo, but hopefully nobody will remember or look at. So we've got this rose to do next. I've got some more leaf greens to do, so I'll do the leaves, and we're only coming up to 21 minutes. I'll do some more leaves because they're really simple to do. So we had, this was the olive colours, this one. So we had leaf green in the centre, and apologies for the little monster. For being the little monster. That's all he is. He's shut up and sit down and be good. So I'm just going to carry on to the next page. And again, you've got some darker centres, some lighter centres. I think that's a different leaf again, so I'm going to leave that for the moment. I like the leaf, so I may keep it, but just for the moment I'm going to go in with olive 4511, and we'll just give this a bit of a catch up. So if you do the underneath leaf first, and then whatever you've got on your brush becomes the highlight. And then it doesn't matter if it's stronger or not, you've got a contrast. And again, I like the fact, now I've done this slightly different because I wanted a shadow, so you see I've created a shadow. So I kind of like that idea. So you see that is nearly set because it's Inktense. So when you go over it, you are going to get a natural line. Now we don't want that anywhere else, but if you were creating a shadow, you can either go over it twice, which I wouldn't advise because obviously it's paper, but in order to get it in one go, it's easier to do it. It's just so much easier to do it straight away. And then you've got all your shadows in there. But that one is the most natural one, I think, and that one. But again, you've got to be a bit careful touching, so you might have to wait. you may want to wait until it's dried, because you're touching wet, and we've got two wets on a page, which is not always a good idea. So we've got that leaf green, which we had as a different one. So we've got a little bit of hooker's green in the centre, and we'll just look about. I found two other leaves there, but they're different. There's one over there, and then there's three over here. And then we've got our green felt 1530, and I think it's a transition thing from one leaf to another, but I think this colour can cope with that. I've missed some there. So you can go paler or darker. It depends on what you want to show. Sorry, I just did the butterfly one. I don't think that matches, so I need to just match that up a bit. And again, you've got to be a little bit careful if you're touching things twice, because colour books don't like too much water. But you work fairly fast, so it's quite nice. It's another. And it's very easy on the hands as well. You can physically do this all day and it's not going to bother your hands at all. So again, that's another reason why I really like it. So we have the fern green, because I forgot these two. So do the bottom one first and then immediately do the light one, and you've got one tone slightly lighter, and that means without doing anything you have a highlight. I think we've nearly got them all. There's always one or two you miss. This one's, I think I did this one the same. This one's a rule to itself, and I haven't done the stem, but I might do the stem brown, I think. So I'll pan out because there's been 30 minutes, which doesn't seem a lot, but you can see they're very soft colours. They're very soft colours, so we've got to decide, are we going to do blonde or we're going to do brunette? I think we do brunette. Now, as I used to use my little book, my book lasted me 2 years, because I would look at this and think, well, actually, I know exactly what brown I want for there. I want my near colour 2. Oops, my book's upside down. My Caran d'Ache near colour 2, and I think they call it beige now, but they called it chocolate last time, I think. And I know exactly what colour I want. I want Dunkel. I want either a combination of Dunkel Beige 405, which is not called Dunkel Beige anymore, it's called something else. I think it's called chocolate, and 407, which is sepia. And I love those two colours. They're a bit colder, so for hair they're different. But I like those two colours, and that's what I would use. I'd just probably use 2 colours. And the way this book lasted me 2 years without revamping, without re-scratching, is I would look at a red in my Peerless and I would paint the roses. I would remember that I had an Inktense lemon that I loved, and I would paint the yellow, and then I would use a green from, and these are a lot of use, you can tell, there's the monster. I loved these greens, these olivey greens from the Kiritake Gansai Tambi watercolors, and I just put fat puddles. Now you've got to be a bit careful because they crack, but if you keep them fairly flat, they're fine. There's a lot of colour on there. Gorgeous, gorgeous colours. And I use a lot of these greens, as you can see with the tiny little brush marks, for the leaves. And then I look for the purples in the, I love the purples in the Inktense. And the reds, and one of my favourite reds or oranges is, I like deep chrome, but I love Geranium Lake, and I loved it that much I put 2 squares in this particular section. And the reason that my book lasted me is I didn't even look at what names they weren't named a lot. And what I was going to do for this next book when I revamped it was put absolutely every orange together, whether it was a Neocolor 2, whether it was a Derwent watercolor, or whether it was a Caran d'Ache. I'd put all of them together and use them just purely as a watercolor. The only one I never mixed was the Graphitint for obvious reasons. But seeing as I've managed to do some gorgeous grunging with complementary colours, and I find our elephant, I was always bothered, I don't think it's in this one, I think it's Animorphia, isn't it? Yeah. I was always bothered about the mechanics, the mechanical different, it could be this one, I might have already had it out. Yep, it's out somewhere. Bear with me 2 seconds, let me see where it is. Don't know where I've bobbed it. I bobbed it somewhere. Oh, it's here, look, it is out. And I was always worried about doing mechanical things. And my favourite page is the butterfly. And I've wanted to do this since I bought this book. But I didn't know how to do the mechanical things. And then I was playing with my Neocolor 2s. And I had to play, and I was, if you mix 2 complementary colours together, 50-50, you will get a grey. You will get a coloured grey, but you will get a grey. But if you mix a tiny bit of red into your green, you will grunge your green up, you will darken it, and that's why you use it for shadows. If you put a tiny bit of green into your red, you will darken it and you will get a shadow. So never use Payne's grey or black to make a shadow. You just use a touch of complementary colour. And if you carry on mixing, you'll end up with a dull grey colour. And I did show this on my book. So I grunged up one and then the other, and then I carried on mixing, and I ended up with hundreds of beautiful greys. And then I used it. This is how I got. This is Graphitint, Derwent Graphitint. And sorry, I tell a lie. It isn't. This is watercolors, mixing greys, making grey colours. But I wanted to do brights. So when I got my Neos, I thought, oh well, I wonder if we could mix two colours together. And then I'd remembered about complementary colours. So reds and greens, purples and yellows, and blues and oranges. Sorry, blues and yellows and purples and oranges. Sorry, purples and yellows, blues and oranges, and red and greens. So in here are lots of mixed colours, but I've tried not to mix them completely, because if you mix them completely, you end up with a dull grey. And that gave me the idea for the bug. So I was still getting better, still having a play. Some I like, some I didn't like so much. I like the colours, but I didn't like them for what I was trying to do. So if you want any kind of dull colour or a shadow, add a touch of a complementary colour. And so I started on the elephant again, and then I did the train. And this is with the Neos, scratching a bit of red and a bit of green, and then grunging them together. So I like that idea, and of course what I've actually done is created some Graphitint tones myself by doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some Neo colours, and I'm going to put the two colours opposite each other in here, and that will create a Graphitint grungy colours. So I've got my beautiful bright Caran d'Ache colours, and then I've also got my dull colours as well. And I still don't have to do any mixing, I just need a brush, a water brush. So the reason that works is I mix them together. Now just recently I've made bigger squares so I can actually work exclusively with Caran d'Ache, or as today with the Inktense pencils. As I do with the Graphitint, I'm going to make some bigger squares because these colours look so awesome on their own. And I can't actually remember what I did. I have used them. Excuse me. There. These are Graphitints. And there is actually somewhere a video with Graphitint, and it's the only one I don't normally mix together. So I love my little book because we get vivid colours and we can have pale colours. So I'm going to have a bit of noise at the moment because Alfie won't behave himself. So this today was Daydreams with my Derwent watercolour pencils. Oh, he's lost his ball under the kitchen table. Oh, that's what he wants my metal ruler for. He loses his ball and then he has a bit of a dicky fit until you climb on your hands and knees and get it. So I like the fact as well that although these are Derwent Watercolor Inktense, there's some beautiful soft colours, which means that you can buy one set of pencils but get several different ways of using them. And so you can have really strong bold colours, or you can have beautiful soft colours, and you don't have to buy 2 sets of everything. So thank you for watching.